The information discussed in this presentation is current as of the date noted and is for informational purposes only. It does not intend to address the financial objectives, situation, or specific needs of any individual investor. Any information is for illustrative purposes only and is not intended to serve as investment, tax, or legal advice, since the availability and effectiveness of any strategy is dependent upon your individual facts and circumstances. Results will vary, and no suggestion is made about how any specific solution or strategy will perform in reality. So with that, I'll get out of here. I'm going to pass things over to Steve to get us started. And again, if you have any questions, we just ask that you hold those till the end. Thank you.
We'll clip this so I don't have to hold it. So welcome. Thank you all for being here. I tend to move forward a little bit. Hopefully you can hear pretty well. We're going to talk about a tough topic, right? Security, digital security, how to protect yourselves. Topic it's could be a little scary. We'll talk about some things that are probably going to put you a little on edge, and then hopefully make you feel a whole lot better by the time we're done. So it'll be a roller coaster ride. Thanks for staying with me. We're going to start. Is all of your personal information out there? Has anyone ever had any experience with this? A couple heads nod. Small hands, absolutely. My hand's up. We all have. We've all gone out there. Is your information out there? The answer is yes. It probably is. If you read the news headlines, probably since we walked in here, another corporate hack released millions of records. Just in the news in the last couple of weeks, 2.5 billion records were released. Last I checked, there's 400 million people in the United States, so that covers pretty much all of us. So is there information out there? Absolutely. Question is what can we do about it and go on from there?
Yeah,
Amanda
so
just said that.
I actually had some of my information compromised, so I can definitely relate to this topic. So I'll share a little story with you. So I was actually in the process of moving, and in the mail, I received a notification that everything from my Charles Schwab bank account, which I kept like $20 in there for ATM fees reimbursement in case I traveled to the city to visit my best friend. And it stated that everything got switched to online. So I was in the process of moving. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about this right now. I have bigger things to deal with. So later on the next week, I received another mailing that I moved to Miami, Florida. So November timeframe sounded fabulous. But guess what? I'm here in upstate New York and I did not move to Miami, Florida. So at that point, I reached out to Charles Schwab very early in the morning and I'm like, okay, guys, I didn't move to Miami, Florida. What's going on here with my bank account that has $20 inside it? And they said, well, did you reach out to us via online chat? I'm like, nope, which means the person did. And so what they did was they actually got into my account. They switched everything to electronic. They went into the online chat. They did know my mother's maiden name, which, by the way, is public information. Duh, I should have known that. Totally didn't. And they requested a debit card be mailed to them. And I said, okay, it's $20. Can you just close down the account? I'm not really using it. Send me my money. And they're like, okay, it's like $1,500 in your bank account. And I'm like, no, that's not my money. So what ended up happening, because they asked some further questions, did you use the Square app, which is if you go to especially a privately owned store, they have these like Square apps that attach to like a cell phone or maybe an iPad where they can run your credit card information as you buy things. So I think they were actually funneling other people's money, probably stolen money, into that bank account and was using the debit card to withdraw it. So needless to say, the institution kept my account open for a couple of weeks until they identified what had happened, and they did end up sending me the $20 eventually. So I share that with you because each of us at some point has probably had a fraudulent charge on our credit cards. Please look at your credit card statement. Or if you get any sort of mailing, definitely take care of that right away because there could be something more happening that you don't realize.
Good. Thank you. All right, well, there's just one example of things that can happen. We'll talk through a few. Ryan, slide, please. So we're going to talk about kind of the who, what, where, when, and whys kind of thing. So we got hackers. You hear this name in the news all the time, right? What are these hackers? It's just a generic term of people hidden in the dark parts of the internet. But we all know what they're looking at, right? They're looking for your name, your social, your date of birth, your telephone numbers, right? That you see those in the news all the time, right? Those are the pretty easy things that you have to turn around and protect. Next slide. But we're gonna get into a few more. They're looking for your debit and credit cards, right? This is about money most of the time. They're really trying to look into there. They want their username and passwords. They want to get into your bank account. Usually they don't put money in. I'll tell you, I think that's about the one story I've heard of them putting money into the account. Usually it all comes out, right? They're trying to do that. Social media accounts. Anyone see those lately? You know, your friend posts up on there, oh, don't respond to me, I got hacked. You know, you got 7 requests from the same person, even though, you know, they're probably sitting right next to you, right? They're looking for those because they're all starting to tie in very closely to these banking accounts. Next slide, please. But now we're getting into the tough stuff. They're looking for your shopping habits. Who cares where you go in the store, right? That seems weird why they would want that, but they do want that. They want your medical records. That's kind of weird. But they're putting it together. Your personal interest. Anyone know your personal interests are held? What'd you type into Google this morning? Where'd you go? Where'd your cell phone tell them you went over the weekend? It was Labor Day weekend, right? Where'd they go? And then I like to put this on there, FOLS information. Everyone looks at me like this weird word because it's not very popular out there. But what that means is that they're putting all of these pieces together to draw a bigger picture of who you are. Because as they have a larger picture based on your shopping habits, based on your medical records, based on where you live, what city, where you've been, it's actually more valuable in the world of identity theft. So that's what they're trying to go. So that's what they're looking for, right? Pretty much everything about us. Yeah, sorry for the bad news on that one. But now we have to understand if that's what they're looking for, where is it, right? Oh, well, my computer, my phone, my tablet. I put a list. This is all in your book for a reason, for your reference. Personal assistants. Anyone get gifted the little Alexa disc at Christmas that you turned on? That's for listening all the time. Speakers, baby monitors. Hear those in the news a lot. We like them. Smart doors. Probably not a very common one, but you hear anything that ties into there. Refrigerators. That's a great one. My dad had one. It was his oven. I'm not sure why his oven had Wi-Fi, but his oven had Wi-Fi. I don't get it. But you can see every little thing, and they're saying smart appliance is smart. It's called the Internet of Things. They want everything tied into each other. All of that is collecting that information about you. Where do you go? What do you talk about? Anyone ever talk about a topic and see an advertisement online the next day? Yeah, I see everybody's head nodding on that one. So most people don't think of this whole list. But anything that's out there is listening. And those are just your devices. Next slide. So now we're going to say, why are they doing this? And the universal answer is money. Sorry if I'm a little bit in the way of the screen over here. It's all about money. We could find that some of these things are worth it. Your social security number is worth about $2 on the dark web. That's kind of depressing knowing the pain and suffering that it causes once it's leaked out for us. Your driver's license, a little bit harder. Not as many people take that. $150, give or take. And these are all approximate numbers and large ranges. Website credentials, $1 from a random site, $150 if you're talking about something like Amazon, right? Amazon's pretty good if they can start buying things and shipping it all over. And somehow they're able to track where everything's delivered. Don't understand why. If you put all that together in the full list at the bottom, $1,000 if they want your kind of identity to go, right? And that's ballpark. Based on who the identity is, it might be worth significantly more. Right? So you can see how the sum is so much more than the parts at times. Right? Because that's what they're trying to track, and that's why they're trying to track it. The room just got very quiet. I like that. Next slide, please. So now, how do they get it, right? We talked about your stuff, but now you've got your passwords. Are they insecure? Do you use the word password? Most places don't take that anymore. Spam emails. Are we all sick of those? Really? I mean, I know I get a lot of Amazon packages delivered, but if you looked at my email, I probably get about 100, right? And from places that I never even order from. Signing up for apps, one of my personal favorites. I say this all the time. If you're not paying for the service, you're the product. If they're going to give it to for free, social media, they got thousands of employees. How did they pay for them? Advertisements are great, but advertisements only work if you're on the site that being sold to those advertisers, right? Any of the free ones. The phishing and incorrect domains is a great one. It ties back into spam. The old examples, whitehouse.com. What, anything wrong with that? It's .gov, absolutely. That used to go to, another site that no one wanted to go to, right? But they do that all the time. And now that more domain names are out there and extensions are out there, it's harder and harder to track. But they hide things behind them. They'll do whitehouse.gov.jp. Is that the same thing? No, that's a site. That's right. They change them all the time. And then direct attack, right? These are people out there that are just saying, scanning, looking for your home internet service, trying to just go direct into your house. They're all kind of sitting out there. So lots of ways they can go into it. So there's ways to go into there. Right?
Yeah, so there's corporate hacks, there's data leaks. So kind of going back to my story, do you know how they got into my Charles Schwab bank account? Because I used the same password as my Yahoo email as I did with my Charles Schwab account. Shame on me. Guess what? There was a Yahoo data breach. They had my password. And then years go by and they find an opportunity where to use it. So that kind of goes right into the hacks, the leaks, Equifax, that was a big one. A lot of our data's out there already. And there was a recent one too that just occurred. So these things, unfortunately, are just popping up. So we need to protect ourselves, which we'll share later. So there's over 1 billion people that have had their information leaked in the first half of 2024. So I actually pulled some more information off of the Theft Resource Center, which I thought was interesting, which is the top compromises by industry. So financial services is 182 companies. The next one, I think will surprise you, healthcare, 112 companies. Why healthcare? Honestly, because the individuals can purchase their information and they could submit false claims and receive payouts. Oddly enough, my husband actually had that happen. So I turned to him one day, I'm like, hey, did you go to the doctor's office in like November? It was Thanksgiving time when we were up in Buffalo visiting family. He goes, no, I didn't go. Where according to the benefit statement, which shows exactly what gets submitted into insurance, he went to Colorado and the insurance company paid out significantly, thousands of dollars. So we do even have to monitor our benefit statements for the insurance claims. So those are two I thought were interesting. All right, next slide. All right, so the best way to really protect yourself is you reflecting on questions that you can ask yourself. Like what are you signing up for? Are you signing up for something that is no cost? Well, guess what? There's no free lunch. Is the email really from the person? If you're unsure, please never click links. If there's phone number, don't call the phone number inside the email. Always verify. And if you're unsure, ask a professional to help, to verify, to audit. I recently had a client reach out for this very thing. And I take the phone number and I actually stick it right in Google. And usually if it's a scam or spam, it will pop right up that it is. And if it's legitimate, it usually pops up with the website name. So that's just one easy way that you can help. Is your bank really asking for that information? Well, one of the things I did was I put a security word on all of my bank accounts once that Charles Schwab incident happened. I'm like, okay, I'm terrified of them getting bank access. What can I do to protect myself? So I put a word on file that hopefully no one will know. So there's other things too. I won't go through every single one of them, but just ask yourself that question. You know, does this seem fishy to me? Is there red flags? You know, is the IRS requesting gift cards? No, they really won't request gift cards. So next slide. All right, so there's other things that you can do to protect yourself. First of all, don't use the same password on every account. I ran into that. You want to create strong passwords, usually alphanumeric, symbols. Don't reuse the password. Enable two-factor authentication. So that's where you get the code to your cell phone. So I've set that up on all accounts that I can, especially bank accounts, because I want to know every single time someone's logging in. Hopefully it's just me. And I have that extra code. So the way I envision securing myself is adding on onion layer. You're adding on an extra layer. You're just making it that much more harder to get to the core, which to me is identity theft. Change your default passwords, and then maybe use a password manager. And so I personally don't use a password manager. I know Steve might speak on that a little bit, but my husband uses LastPass, which actually was compromised. It was breached. So I personally, I use like a phone app, and I have like cryptic messages on what my passwords are. And hopefully if someone gains access, they won't be able to figure it out. We're just trying to add onion layers. I'm not going to keep a handwritten password book. I probably won't remember to update it, but that's another method to your madness. So there is password managers that are not cloud-based. I know Steve can probably speak on this a little bit more, but those that are more internal that you keep on your own computers, your own, just make sure your computer has good antiviral software. So next slide. So it goes right into updating your software. Make sure your software is the most up to date. So your cell phone, that's a big one. A lot of us do a lot on our cell phones. So make sure if that update comes through, you proceed with it, because a lot of times it's security updates. Computers, that's a given. Software, the internet connected devices. So those are those same devices, which by the way are in your booklet on page 9. Connecting a smart mirror, I have one of those, the Alexa devices, the Google, you name it, everything that's smart, just make sure they're updated. So next slide. So you really want to try to reduce your digital footprint. What services are you signed up for? Do you have apps? That's a really big one, a lot of apps. If you have a lot of apps on your cell phone, you're just opening yourself up to one more company. So clear out those apps, plus your phone will go faster, so that's always nice. Do you have social media accounts? Do you have things that you're really not monitoring and using? You might want to consider closing them down. Credit cards. So that's when you have to be a little careful of. So if you do close down a credit card that you're not using, it could impact your credit score. So you do want to be mindful of that. But my theory, if I'm not using it, I'd much rather close it down. I don't have that risk anymore. And just providing your personal information out. Does the retail store really need your email? Are you good with that discount? Because that just opens yourself up more. Next slide. So there's kind of really two main ways you can really truly, I think, protect yourself based on what we know today. So the one is, monitoring your accounts, setting up that, monitor. You can use, different companies that provide that service. You can monitor it yourself by just, keeping an eye on transactions, setting up alerts. So I set up like a credit card alert. If it's over a certain amount, I get alerted. So that's nice to know that it works. But the best way, in my opinion, is really putting on those credit freezes. So you don't have to raise your hand, but is anyone at least familiar with what a credit freeze is by any chance? Okay, I'm seeing head nods, that's great. So there's 3 credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, where you can literally freeze. So what that means is if someone were to open up an account, including yourself, against your record, it should stop. Now, I think of the credit freeze, and if you think of a home and it has a front door, a side door, a back door, you can put cameras on each door, which is also known as credit monitoring. You could watch the people come in, the hackers get in, or you can lock your door. So obviously locking your door is the best fit. Now you don't want to lock just your front door, because guess what? You got a side and back door. So you want to lock every single credit bureau down. That's the best way of protecting yourself. And so I recently did this, and I locked down all three. I created an online account with all three. Why? Because if I want to unthaw or unfreeze, I have an account already established. And not only that, if you have your own account established, someone else can't establish an account on your behalf. So having a Social Security account established, that's another way of protecting yourself. Most people think, well, if I have an account established, my information's out there. Well, guess what? It's already out there. So you're actually protecting yourself by having an account. So the next slide after that, which is also in your booklet on page 13, is the contact information of each credit bureau. And we also included in there the website addresses. Right in your booklet, it shows the address where you can go in and specifically freeze your account. And for me, for two of them, it maybe took 10 minutes in total. It's very quick. All right. And let's go to the next slide. Perfect. So another thing you might want to consider doing, especially before you freeze, is you can actually pull a credit report from each of the three credit bureaus once a year for free. And annualcreditreport.com, that is the website that's sponsored by the three credit bureaus. Don't use the free one. That's not it. This is the one you want to use if you're going to check. So one way of checking your credit regularly is you could check with each bureau every 4 months. Because 4 times 3, 12 months. There you go. And when you check the credit report, it gives you all the information as far as any accounts that are open on your behalf, those that are closed. It does not provide a credit score. You have to pay extra for that. So it's mainly about making sure everything that's on your record is accurate. And there is a process if it is not accurate. You can reach out to the credit bureau. So I think last slide here, right before we do some questions. If you're unsure about something, ask someone. I tell my clients, reach out to me. Like, I don't care, just let me know. Let me be that point of reference to make sure they stay safe. Change your passwords, monitor your accounts, and reach out for professional help.